Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
You want to be the very best, like no one ever was? Then talk to your local professor and get your partner for life and head out on Route 1. After all, you're 11 years old, there are 8 badges to get, and the National Zoological Encyclopedia rests squarely on your shoulders. Gotta catch them all, and that's the spell we're casting tonight on Casters Guild. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Casters Guild. I am your guild master and human Pokedex, Rick Perry.
And I am Baron. I may as well just be Ash's mom, Kane.
And joining us again is a returning guild member. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Ryan. I don't have a cool trainer. Cool trainer, middle nickname.
Hey. Hey.
In case you couldn't tell from that intro, and in case you can't tell from what you clicked on, we're talking about Pokemon tonight. So I think we're going to start somewhere where we usually start. And we usually start with the question, what's your favorite? And I can't decide whether I should do what's your favorite Pokemon game or what's your favorite Pokemon, because what's your favorite Pokemon is such a huge question with how many Pokemon are available now. So, but you know what?
Let me give you the reminder that we give our guests, in that we will always throw out multiple answers. So I think that it sometimes would behoove us to throw out multiple questions.
All right. So let's start with what is your favorite Pokemon? And remember, you can give us as many answers as you want.
All right, so I'm starting then. That's easy. Shiny Chandelure. Done. No others.
Shiny Chandelure. That was easy enough.
Yes. It is perfection in a single Pokemon. You want ghost types because it's creepy, it's got that. You want fire, it's got that. You want realistic fire, you got to go with shiny because the regular one's blue for some reason. I would have done it opposite, but whatever. Yeah, I love the design of it. I love the creepy chandelier aesthetic, and yeah, it's been my favorite since it debuted. I want to say it was like a Gen 4, Gen 5 Pokemon, but it's easily the best.
The Chandelure also has one of the best movesets in Pokken Tournament.
Yes. Chandelure knows how to Kamehameha in a Tekken knockoff, and it's amazing. I love that thing.
Baron?
Chandelure, Pokemon. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, Haunter.
Okay.
Haunter's my favorite. You know what? But I may have said that last year. So let me tell you another one. We're gonna go with Cubone.
Okay. All right.
Cubone because of his design. Cubone because he wears essentially armor and a weapon, and because of his much theorized backstory.
Yes. Cubone has it's got a confirmed kind of vague backstory that's already kind of sad enough, and then the theories that people have to get on top of that, there's so many.
Oh yeah.
Well, so I gotta ask, like original Cubone or Alolan Cubone? And if you haven't seen it, Alolan Cubone is incredible.
Does Cubone have Alolan or just as Marowak?
Oh, Marowak. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will say Alolan Marowak is super cool though. Like if you haven't seen Alolan Marowak, are you familiar with Alolan Pokemon in general, Baron?
I've played. That's Moon, right?
Sun and Moon, yeah.
Yeah, I've played Moon. I played it just long enough to get the werewolf. If you know anything about me, you know that's. So pretty much, I beat the game at that point.
Yeah, so at least for your objective, anyway.
Right.
Like and rock on lock, you're out. That's a good personal goal. Everybody's Pokemon journey is personal.
It really was. It really was. If that had actually been me on that island going around, oh, look, I have an actual fucking werewolf in this Pokeball. I think I'm done. I may even rule this island after this.
But Alolan Marowak is a fire dancer. Like the Marowak bone is like super long. It's got flames on both ends, and it also has like a rub mark on its skull because like in its Pokedex entry, it says the way it lights that bone on fire is it rubs it against its skull so fast that the friction causes it to light on fire. So like there's a mark on its skull where it has rubbed the bone in order to catch it on fire. And it's also part ghost type, I think.
Yeah,
Like
it's ghost fire.
Ghost fire type instead of ground type like it is in the original. All right, I guess I'm gonna give more than one answer because like I don't know, man. I really like Pokemon. My favorite of all time is probably Duskull. Like just the design of that cute little baby Reaper. Like I love it, and I couldn't even tell you whether I like the regular or the shiny better because like the gray coat or the red coat. Either way, it looks really fucking cool. I like Growlithe and Arcanine so much, especially Arcanine, however you want to pronounce it, that Growlithe and Arcanine are exclusives usually in one of the two versions. And when I'm deciding which version I'm going to get for any particular game, the first thing I do is look up which one has Growlithe in it, and that's the one I go with.
That is a strong choice. See, I take the other tack, and I just buy both. Like,
yeah, there you go.
Like Pokemon generations come out, and I am porque no los dos every day. So they get my money. They know how to sell me the same game twice, which is a real pain. But I feel that.
If you had asked me when I was in middle school, which is like the prime Pokemon age, what my favorite Pokemon was, I would have told you Snorlax and told you there was no other Pokemon worth being my favorite other than Snorlax. Because, man, I love my big fat sleepy boy.
Hey, when it takes you 7 generations to stand up, you know that's a mood. If you look at Snorlax's sprites over the Pokemon generations, he's slowly going from laying down to standing up.
Yeah. It took him 7 generations to stand up.
Yeah, I think mine's always been Haunter. Like from the moment I got into Pokemon Blue and found Lavender Town, it was on. And I don't know. I think it's purely character design. I think it just.
I mean, it's pretty bold to look at the Gengar line and choose the middle one as your favorite. Not saying you're wrong, just saying it's a bold choice.
I feel like that's everybody though. Like, but it's like because of the strong design of Haunter. Like you look at that whole line, you're like, oh, Ghastly's cute. It's a little ball, and it just sort of goes, eh. And Gengar is like, he kind of looks trickstery, but he's just a blob of ghost. But Haunter,
just a dead Chansey.
That's fair.
Not Chansey, Clefable.
Oh,
Clefable.
My bad.
Even still, now I'm not going to be able to ever unsee it.
Okay. So, because I feel like this is a good place to talk about this, Clefairy was originally supposed to be the mascot of Pokemon, not Pikachu.
Really?
And if you look into a lot of things from the Gen 1 games, it makes sense. And even the Gen 2 games, because if you get a Pokédoll, it's a Clefairy. If you look at a lot of the Pokemon sprites for like in the very small form, like when you're looking at them in the menu, like a lot of them are Clefairy. And if you look at Gengar's design, like when they went to, okay, we're going to make the ghost Pokemon, like what's a ghost of the Pokemon? It's Clefairy. So there's a lot of things that resulted from them originally, because like the Pokemon was originally going to be targeted at girls, at young girls, and when they decided to target it at young children in general, that's kind of when the shift was made. That and the anime. I mean, like when Ash picked up Pikachu, like that made Pikachu like the Pokemon.
Yeah, I was about to ask. It was like, was that just a decision that the anime writers went like in their own direction outside of the decisions of the game designers? Like they're like, you know what, this Clefairy thing is cool and all, but I like this electric rat a little better.
I'm honestly not sure. That I do not know.
Well, it would had to have been the Anime House because the manga, which was already out by that time, was Red and Clefairy. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah,
Really?
yep. So it was like last minute, like before they started drawing the pilot episode. They're like, hey, we got feedback basically from the manga that I think that like Red encounters a Pikachu later on in the forest, and that comic sold more than the earlier ones. And so they were like, all anime is just animated adaptations of comic books, and if that comic sells better, we're making that the thing. And lo and behold, Pikachu became the mascot.
Not to mention, if you played that first generation, if you ran into a Pikachu early on, you felt real special. I mean, Pikachu had a real low encounter rate in the Viridian Forest.
Yeah.
Everybody ran into their Caterpies and their Weedles, but if you ran into that Pikachu, it was almost like running into a Shiny before Shinies were a thing.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was.
Yeah, they were tough.
Yellow happened.
Yellow happened because of the anime, 100%. Yeah.
I enjoyed the Surfing Pikachu minigame. Unlocking it was a nightmare without a Game Shark, but I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, that was not that. That was some unnecessary hoops.
Yes.
So, based on what you guys have been saying about like where your favorites are, what was the generational drop off for y'all? Because I feel like everyone in our age group has like the generation of games where they're like, yeah, I just didn't hit it anymore.
I guess it depends on what you consider drop off, because Generation 3 I still played all the way through. What generation is Diamond and Pearl? Is that Gen 4?
4.
Yeah. Diamond and Pearl, I bought it. And as a matter of fact, I bought one for me and one for my wife. And I think we were still dating at the time. I'm not even sure if we were engaged at that point. But we tried playing it, and I don't think I even got the third badge. Like, I think I just kind of lost interest, like, at the beginning of Generation 4.
That's fair. That's where it hit me until Gen 6 came out. But
mine was purely I just didn't get the next like console system for it. So after I had the Game Boy and I played Blue, I played Yellow, and then pretty much after that, would I have played? Probably. I mean, I played Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah. But you do Silver and Gold? Silver and Gold were still on the Game Boy.
I don't think I got that far.
Gotcha.
Oh man, Silver and Gold, that was the height. I mean, Game Freak literally thought that the Pokemon fad was going to die out, so they went harder on Gold and Silver than they ever did any other generation.
Yeah.
And because of that, it kept it going. So that's why in Gold and Silver you can play through all of Red and Blue again. You beat Gold and Silver, and then you stop, and they're like, "All right, now go back to Kanto and do all 8 original gyms again with all of those gym leaders. They're more powerful." And then you go beat Red, because they were like, "Yeah, this is going to be this is for the fans that stuck with it for another generation of games."
Yeah, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are almost like the definitive Pokemon experience for me.
Because they had to do it again. And then the games just didn't, the fad just never died. And then that's why I think a lot of people describe like Gen 3 as being really weirdly disjointed.
Yeah.
And kind of rushed because they didn't think they were going to have to make it, so they never made any plans for it. They like Game Freak got told last minute. Like that was when Nintendo bought Game Freak and formed the Pokemon Company and made an entity dedicated to the Pokemon franchise. Was it not dying after Gen 2?
Isn't it crazy that like these like Japanese franchises that they're sure are gonna die? So instead of letting it go, they're like, let's just go hard on one more game, and then it becomes like a major thing. There's Pokemon, #1 media selling franchise in the world, right? Nothing sold more than Pokemon. And I think we talked about it in the Final Fantasy episode. That happened with Final Fantasy and Squaresoft or Square Enix as well. Like when they made Final Fantasy, they called it that because they thought that was their last game. As a game company, they were like, we're not going to be able to make another game. And then it just sold so well that it like saved their company.
So funnily enough, that actually they've been asked that question. Turns out that's an urban legend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like, it's just called Final Fantasy because it's easy to say in both English and for English and Japanese speakers. Literally,
Wow.
that's it.
Wow.
like-
Urban legend. See what I get for doing no research for this podcast.
I'm as big a Final Fantasy fan as I am a Pokemon fan, so I'm not going to co-opt it for that. But I'll tell you, man, yeah, Final Fantasy has its own storied history in much that same way. But
Yeah.
yeah, Pokemon then kind of took off in this weird way, like because they had to other fads kept trying to jump onto the series after Gen 3, where they had like the e-reader, which if you all remember the Game Boy Advanced e-reader, where you bought trading cards and scanned them in, you could build like battle tower trainer towers and stuff like that, but you had to go to a store and buy cards. Oh my god, it was weird.
I mean, if you were already into the trading card game and already into the video game and into both, I mean, it kind of made sense. I mean, why not have something else to do with your trading cards?
Sure, but they weren't trading cards. It was just e-reader cards. They were their own dedicated thing.
Well, didn't they also have, I mean, maybe I'm imagining it, but I thought I remembered some of the TCG cards having the e-reader thing on the side of it. And like you could do things with it.
You are correct. There were a few TCG cards that had e-reader barcodes on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for those, that would make sense. But yeah, I guess just the regular e-reader cards. Like I remember like being able to buy a classic NES game or like something kind of like that as a pack of cards, and you would scan them one at a time. It's like all 10 cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. God, and that was like, well, that was like the NES classic stuff, but also like the Animal Crossing promotional e-reader cards where you could get cosmetics in your house.
Yeah.
I could only imagine if that had happened again during the Animal Crossing craze this past year when the new one came out. Like, hey, you got to go to a physical store. We had this planned promotion. Glad that didn't happen twice.
Yeah. They tried to do it with the previous Animal Crossing with all those amiibo.
That's true. I have all of those.
Oh, geez, that's a lot of amiibos.
I wonder how much they make off of those things too.
They make quite a bit. They're still really good quality. Like I've gotten new amiibo this week. I've got the Monster Hunter Rise ones, but I've also got like the Terry amiibo from Smash Brothers. I got all that new stuff. And I'm actually kind of surprised that, like, thinking of Pokemon, that none of the Pokemon games, aside from Detective Pikachu, have actually really utilized amiibo.
I'm still waiting for a Skylanders style amiibo game.
I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, up until this moment, I almost kind of thought there already was. There was really not?
No.
Well, just Skylanders. I mean, like, Skylanders is the, because, but no, there is not a Skylander style amiibo. There really needs to be. I feel like even if they did like a Mario Party style, like they had like the Mario Party that like focused with amiibos, and like they had like Mario like amiibo specifically for Mario Party, but like it wasn't what you wanted it to be.
No, it wasn't good. It just unlocked a watered down version of the Mario Party kind of game you wanted.
Yeah,
wasn't great. Super Mario Party on the Switch, by the way, is amazing. But
yes, it's really good. It is really good.
I'm wondering, so with the upcoming, have you guys seen the trailers for the upcoming Pokemon games coming out later this year?
I saw the announcement trailers. I don't know if there have been any since then.
There haven't been.
Yeah.
But they're doing the Gen 4 remix, which I'm actually kind of excited about because, like, as we were talking about with like falling off, I could not get through Diamond and Pearl personally, but when Platinum came out, like that tertiary game, I don't know what changed with me personally or how much, because they added an epilogue to the game, but I couldn't put that down. And they basically added Doctor Who to Pokemon, and that was kind of a weird thing. But they added this character named Looker, and he's like, I'm investigating interdimensional mysteries. Do you want to come and help me see alternate realities? And I'm like, that's all I've ever wanted. Also in Pokemon, like, please, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, but I'm also, even though I look like David Tennant's doctor, I'm actually just like a Interpol guy, a Pokemon Interpol. I'm like, well, that's fine. Let's go uncover Pokemon mysteries. Gen 5 was weird. They used a lot of, like, let's say, pseudo-religious symbolism. There was a lot of like nearly Catholic imagery in that game where there was like this religious order of Pokemon nuts that were like trying to shame you for being a trainer.
Well, is that the generation where they introduced Arceus?
No, that was 4.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
think.
because Arceus. No, because 4 was Palkia and
Galga and
what's his
Giratina.
name?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, Giratina was like the one that was on the cover of Platinum.
Arceus was Gen 4.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Arceus was the promotional Pokemon for Gen 4, which, like, speaking of mythicals, is a horrible scam, but I love it. But yeah, Arceus was the mythic of 4.
Right.
Like, because that goes back to Mew.
Yeah.
And I'm still salty. Like, nearly 27 years later, or whatever, 26 years later, I'm still salty about Mew not being included in Gen 1.
You can glitch him in there.
It's true, but have you heard the story of why they didn't put Mew in Gen 1?
No.
They didn't think it would be a cool reward to have a secret Pokemon hidden behind finishing the Pokedex. They thought that was a bad idea, so they deleted it from the Western version of the game completely. In the original Red and Green, when you finish the Pokedex, you get a Mew. And they were like,
Wow.
yeah, we don't want kids to have fear of missing out. We don't want kids to be able to shame each other for saying, like, you couldn't finish the Pokedex, you don't have a Mew. Because apparently that happened on like Japanese playgrounds. It's like it became a sense of pride, and like there were kids that were like, I'll never be able to do this. So they took it out of the American release. Because
wow.
Red and Blue, for those that don't know, is the second version, like the second edition of Gen 1.
Yeah, it's like Gen 1.5.
Yeah. So they turned it into a certificate. And like I remember going to the Pokemon Stadium pre-release event as a child at a mall in Virginia, so that I could take my copy of Blue and put it in a big official Nintendo machine to get a Mew, and they printed out me a certificate of authenticity to say, like, you have a real Mew, you can show other people, you have a pedigree, you've got credentials for your Mew, kid. That was like, now I'd be like, that's ridiculous, but then that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah, in case anyone was wondering, if you download the digital versions of Pokemon Red and Blue for the DS or 3DS, all the glitches still work because it's just a straight port. So when I say glitch, I don't mean like you need like a Game Shark or whatever. Like you can glitch a Mew in there. Like I forget what the glitch was, but we did it because my wife had never completed a Pokedex, and like when we downloaded Red and Blue for our DSs, she was like, I'm going to complete a Pokedex. And so that was the only way to get her a Mew on a DS. So we looked it up on Google and found out how you could glitch in a Mew. So we did that. And the missing no glitch still works. The Mew glitch still works. It all still works. So if you want to go back and play some classic Gen 1 with all of its mistakes intact, you can if you download it on your DS.
That's incredible. So, do you know if there's a way to get the mythicals in the GBA or the Game Boy re-releases on 3DS, like, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Red and Blue, so on? Like,
I don't know about Gold and Silver, but like you can get it in Red and Blue. You can you have to glitch. But like it's. Now, if you say legit, like without using a glitch, I don't think so. Not that I know. We looked it up because, like I said, she wanted to complete her Pokedex, which is the only reason like I started playing Red is so I could get her the Red exclusive Pokemon and trade them to her so she could have her complete Pokedex. And pretty much once I caught all of the exclusive Pokemon, I was like, I'm done with this for now. I got other games I want to play. So she completed her Pokedex, but like then we were like, she was like, I don't have Mew, and I was like, well, if you go, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like if you go here and you fight this Pokemon in order to make this number, this exact value, and then you travel directly to this route and go to this spot and encounter a random Pokemon, it will be Mew. So she got herself a Mew.
That's awesome. You can upload those to the cloud now, and you can bring those into Sword and Shield. Any
nice.
of the any of the old games on 3DS. That's the only way to get like Game Boy era Pokemon forward. Because of the hardware cutoff with Gen 3. That was why they did the remakes originally. It was literally because they didn't plan on having the generational move forward from Game Boy Color to Game Boy Advance. So they were like, oh, we'll have to put out red and green again. Let people catch all the stuff that they'd be missing. You have to be an insane person to get the Gen 2 starters because, again, for those that don't know, you have to complete the Pokedex in Pokemon Emerald, and you get one of the Gen 2 starters as a reward. So in order to get all three of them, you either have to do that 3 times or trade with somebody else that's bred them doing it at the same time. And that's not easy to do because you need Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, and you essentially need to complete the Pokedexes on all of them and trade all of those Pokemon over to Emerald. And then you can have a Cyndaquil, Totodile, or Chikorita.
That is insanity. I mean, with Pokemon Home now, it's got to be easier, though, right? I mean, at least to get them in the current generations.
Yeah, because they obviously did Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and you could trade, and those were Gen 4 games. You could trade those up to Gen 5, and then there's an app you can download on your 3DS that lets you upload Pokemon from Gen 5 to the cloud, and then you can just move them forward from there. But that was a whole thing.
Yeah, that'll forever be a piece of Pokemon lore and a piece of Pokemon difficulty that generations in the future will not experience.
I do have my time traveler badge though. If you played the remakes of Gen 3 on 3DS, and you had, I want to say is a Groudon or Kyogre from original Ruby and Sapphire, like it has the serial number from what is obviously a GBA version of those legendaries, they give you a thing. They're like, holy shit, you've been moving Pokemon up the generations all this time. Here, have a certificate, I guess. You can show this off. You can have your Poke Street cred. And I wonder if they're going to do the same thing for Gen 4 because when the Diamond and Pearl remakes come out this year, like if I show up with my Gen 4 legendaries or starters or what have you with those old serial numbers, if they're going to be like, man, we keep it at this, huh?
Well,
still a fan.
Here's the certificate, I guess.
It's just a handwritten on a napkin.
Man, you're a fan.
Been here a while, have you?
Here's your certificate, and here is your refills for your geriatric medications.
Right.
You old fuck. Like,
yeah. I loved it, but that was how I felt. That was definitely a moment where I was like, come on. They at least give you stuff. So thinking of completing Pokedexes, you get stuff for it now, like actual mechanical stuff for it now. I want to say starting with like Gen 6, they added the shiny charm, which makes it so you go from like a 1 in 8,000 to like a 1 in 500 chance of getting a shiny and stuff like that. And with the DLC Pokedexes that they added for the Switch games, like you get other charms that are like, oh, you get Pokemon that have like their competition badges so they can have cool titles. So you don't just yell like, go Pikachu. It's like, go my favorite Pikachu or the coolest Pikachu every time you throw them out now.
Yeah.
Little stuff, but they do give you, the shiny charm is where it's at. I'm all about that.
Yeah, if you're one of those people, which if you're a Pokemon fan, you are one of those people who really cares about the fact that you can get a palette swapped Pokemon if you try hard enough for it, then having that charm is pretty awesome.
It's a whole thing. I mean, I don't want to talk about it. But like
I mean, shiny hunting definitely is a thing. There are entire Twitch channels dedicated to nothing but shiny hunting. So if that's your scene, man, then
They at least made like a game of it. I want to say with like Gen 7 and Gen 8. Yeah, starting with Gen 7 when they added swarms, like they added chaining. So if you kill like 50 of the same Pokemon in a row, literally the same one, so if you run into something else you got to run, it like triples your chances. And plus the shiny charm, plus whatever other methods you want to use. I like the kind of the community aspect of it more though, because they added they added wonder trading in the new games, which is, for those that aren't familiar, you just throw a Pokemon out into the ether and someone else throws a Pokemon out into the ether and you get whatever they gave you.
But by the way, just because I will not get another opportunity to bring this up, speaking of Twitch channels dedicated to small niche parts of Pokemon games, I have to say, Ryan, yours for quite a few days was rather enjoyable.
I'm really glad. So Rick became my guy in the chair for my first Nuzlocke runs ever, and it's been we finished base Crystal. I didn't do the Kanto part of it, and we're going through Emerald right now. And so Rick and I like looked at all of the moves that I needed, and I was like, oh shit, I need like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower. They're some of the best moves in the game, and you can only get them from the game corner. And I'm playing on original hardware because that's the kind of nerd I am. Like, I have my original Game Boy cartridges in a GameCube hooked up to my TV, so I can't emulate stuff just running.
Right.
But I looked up online, like, what's the best way to get Game Corner coins? And somebody was like, the roulette wheel is a guaranteed payout. Over time, the odds are so in your favor, you will just get coins.
But it wasn't by a huge amount, but like eventually, like if you just hit spin on the same thing over and over and over again, like your odds of hitting go up and up and up, and eventually you'll hit. And the amount that you win will always be more than what you spent, no matter how, even if it's just by a little bit.
Right. And I was like, well, if I'm just going to let this run, and like, in order to get the number of coins I needed, it had to run nonstop for like 4 days. And I was like, okay, first of all, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get it to just keep hitting the A button without an emulator for 4 days? And I found one of those so I got a GameCube to Super Nintendo controller adapter specifically for playing Game Boy games on my GameCube. And then I got one of those old like knockoff controllers that had the auto fire switch. And I set A to just keep pressing infinitely. And I put that up on Twitch and let that run for 4 days straight.
That's awesome.
So for 4 days, you could just tune into Ryan's stream and watch Pokemon Roulette go. Just Pokemon Roulette, just spinning. And like the music was actually not bad. So there were times when I had nothing else to do or I was doing some chores around the house. I would literally tune in and just watch it, like let it run for like a couple hours.
We need to get back to that Nuzlocke. I've been bouncing into so many other things on my Twitch channel.
Well, did you know that like when I asked you if you wanted to be on the Pokemon episode of my podcast, I had ulterior motives, and I just wanted to get you back in the mood for Pokemon, so you could get back to your Nuzlocke run.
You don't need to do that to me. I never left. The fire never died. The passion and the pride. I used to compete, man. I used to be a contender. You know, I love Pokemon, if you can't tell. And yeah, so I will absolutely get back to it. That's going to happen.
Listening, who doesn't know what we're talking about when we say Nuzlocke? I mean, like, if you're into Pokemon at all, you probably know by now, but just in case, Nuzlocke is a self-imposed Pokemon hard mode that all started with one guy who decided to try something out. And basically, as soon as you get Pokeballs on a Pokemon game, then from that point on, you can only first catch the first Pokemon that you run into on any given route, And if any Pokemon faints during the game, you must release that Pokemon because that Pokemon has now died, and you can't use it anymore. So, and you have to try. It's the only way you can actually lose Pokemon, because if you lose enough of your Pokemon, you literally can't move forward. And there are a bunch of other rules that people have come up with to impose on the Nuzlocke, and you can decide which rules when you want to follow, which rules you don't, because it's literally self-imposed. Like, you can't open up a Pokemon game and be like, oh, I want to play Nuzlocke mode. So, but yeah, there's a whole community surrounding Nuzlocke, so you can find tons of stuff on it.
It rekindled my love of those older games in a way, because like for a while those games were just like, these are grind fests. I've done a million of these.
You literally can't lose. I mean, like, those are old Pokemon games. They're so easy. I mean, Twitch Plays Pokemon proved it, that like you literally can't lose those games.
But I mean, hey, they're aimed at kids. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like that, but like the Nuzlocke challenge, like having to dig into the nitty gritty, like being afraid of a gym leader again.
Yeah.
Like a random trainer battle, being a life or death, like virtual gun to the head, sweating buckets if on for lucky crits was invigorating. It brought me back into the strategy of it that made me really like the PvP aspect.
For me, it was being attached to Pokemon again, like individual Pokemon. Because back when I was a little kid, like, and you caught a Pokemon, like, you felt a certain way about that Pokemon. You'd be like, man, this Pokemon's cool. He's part of my team now. And like, when you get older, you're like, this is just numbers in a computer, and like, I can go catch 10 more of these. It's fine. But doing a Nuzlocke, you only get that Pokemon for that route. That's it. That's all. You can't go catch 10 more of them. And like, you really do get attached to your Pokemon again. And like, when they're about to die or about to get knocked out, like, you really do like feel like, no.
I got to tell you, man, Baron, I don't know if you've heard this, but Rick's daughter named one of mine in the run. She named a Poliwag Pickle. And I was like, well, I clearly have to evolve this into a Politoed so that it's green. And everyone in my stream is like, everyone is mega fans of Pickle. She is the star of the show. Like, nothing bad is allowed to happen to Pickle. I have like specifically gone off air and like still respecting the rules of the Nuzlocke, but like put Pickle in the gym so that she is so tough, nothing bad will happen to her. She is the star of the show.
Everybody loves Pickle. Get him, Pickle.
Get him, Pickle. It became that is the meme. Like it's going down. It's Pickle Town. She's a monster now, though. She's just a little unassuming Politoed, and she will destroy you. I've also loved like getting Pokemon that I was like, oh, I got a Minun. What am I ever gonna use a Minun for? Get out of here, you second-rate Pikachu, you darn dumbass minus rat. Not even a plus rat. I hate you. And then became one of the most clutch members of my team. Like, oh my god, that little Minun is like, I would die for him. He is a powerhouse beast that cannot be stopped. He is a murder machine, most foul.
And those are the things you learn doing a Nuzlocke run, or at least force yourself into doing. Like, I believe the Nuzlocke run became named the Nuzlocke run because of one of the first Pokemon that the guys caught who invented the Nuzlocke run was like a Seedot. And like, as he evolved it up into a Nuzlocke, like, that kind of became the whole thing. Like, he had to do it with his Nuzlocke. So
the name came from the name of his comic.
Okay,
it was the Nuzlocke comics.
Gotcha.
But
that comic was because of the run, wasn't it? Or did he have the comic before the run?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's all because of the Seedot that evolved into a Nuzlocke, and like, he made the comic of his run. And
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, this was a long time ago that started.
Because it would have been a Nuzleaf, and I guess a Nuzleaf lock, ergo Nuzlocke. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, it's a Chansey in the egg question. If a Chansey is born out of an egg, why does it have an egg?
Imagine.
because Pokemon. I mean, like, how many Marowaks are dying to give Cubones their skulls? It's...
Well, if you still have the Marowak in your party, where's the Cubone getting the skull from?
Yeah.
If obviously the Marowak is still alive, what is happening?
And then there's the people who subscribe to the theory that Cubone is a baby Kangaskhan. And then how many Kangaskhan's are dying?
I mean,
Right.
now they're extinct now.
They're
You
just-
don't see them in games anymore, do you? Don't answer that
Yes.
question. I said don't answer it.
Maybe that's why Missingno evolves into a Kangaskhan.
I'm gonna,
Oh, wow. I bet that's part of one of the theories.
I'm gonna
Yep.
start a message board called Pokemon Anon, and I'm gonna start making a bunch of crazy theories. Also, I just realized it's fun to say. Pokemon Anon. Pokemon Anon.
Start a weird.
A new room in our
Trust-
Discord.
It might not be called that, but trust me, that exists already.
Start a weird cult around just refusing to believe that certain Pokemon continue to exist.
Right. Kangaskhan, they're all extinct, but they're in this game. That's what they want you to believe.
Kangaskhan, as a matter of fact, has a mega evolution now, and all that happens is its baby jumps out of its pouch.
Which is Cubone.
So are we saying that, like, are all Kangaskhan's like tortured Dittos that have been forced to take the form forever? Like, is that what this is?
Yes. That's why they have a mega evolution.
Because
That's how Dittos reproduce.
only they mega evolve in the daycare center and things go wrong, and they're like,
And the baby hops out of the pouch. That's a Ditto giving birth.
Oh my god, it's splitting off. It is reproducing via cell division, and it's splitting off.
Ditto's the only Pokemon to reproduce via mitosis.
Well, I mean, this also ties into the whole theory that every Ditto is a failed Mew clone.
Oh. Sign into Pokemon Anon for more.
Yeah. Sign up for our newsletter. Please check that you accept the Poke Cookies.
You made a joke. You made a joke, but I think we might actually make that a room in the official Casters Guild Discord. Pokemon Anon is going to be a room in the Casters Guild.
Ideas about
Yeah, exactly.
just wrong answers only.
Oh yeah, it can't be anything real. Like if they like pop in with real facts, it's like you're fucking banned from this room.
That's like rule 1.
You come in here with facts, you're out.
We don't trust Big Game Freak in here.
Matt Pat is our personal savior. We're gonna make him president in a few more years.
Oh God.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Pokemon Anon.
We bring you all the Pokemon facts they don't want you to know.
Oh my God. Oh, this is the birth of something horrible.
Look, okay. We were talking during your Nuzlocke run, and I don't know if this was the theory that she read somewhere, but Kat brought up that, like, all Pokedexes are written by, like, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, which is why all the facts sound, like, crazy ridiculous. All the 9, 10, 11-year-olds that wrote those Pokedex grew up, and now they run Pokemon Anon.
Oh no. That got dark. That went from children playfully writing encyclopedias to forming an information cult on the internet. I mean, it's the natural evolution of anyone who's actually willing to edit Wikipedia.
Yes.
But I kid. I don't want to throw shade at Wikipedia editors. But, like, I mean, like, come on, Bulbanet. We're looking at you. We know what you're about. Bulbapedia. We know what you guys are trying to do. Like,
You're just waiting. You're waiting in the wings for your chance to change Bulbapedia into Pokemon Anon.
Right. Like, I see now I'm ready for, like, the turf war between Bulbapedia and Cerebi. and just like the competing cult theories that come from everybody that keeps up with that site, like that
Look,
we're going to have
just don't have a war. Both of you sites come join our Discord of Pokemon Anon, and we'll join forces.
This is like cult reformism. Like, don't worry about it. We don't need to have the separate churches. Pokemon fanatics stronger together. Oh God.
You can go to our Discord and join now.
He's already set it up.
Did you make the channel?
Well, I mean, by the time people hear that, it's set up now.
People that are in there is going to be like, where'd this channel come from?
They'll find out 2 weeks from now.
Why is this just filled with esoterra and bullshit? Like, what happened?
2 weeks from now, when this episode comes out, they'll be like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I get it.
Why are they trying to say that the government is secretly run by Snivy people?
Why do they love Matt Pat so much? 2 weeks later, I still don't get it.
Have Matt Pat in a saint pose with a pokeball in one hand and like a Pokedex in the other.
Shut the fuck up, man.
So, like, how do we solve the schism between versions of Pokedexes? Because like the red Pokedex and the blue Pokedex, even though they're both Gen 1, they have different entries. Which is gospel? Which is true?
Porque los...
Why not both?
Yes, the answer is yes. They're both right. Because there's nothing contradictory between the two, I don't think.
All right, for right now, the description of the channel is making Kanto region great again.
Okay. Kanto and Johto are real places in Japan, by the way. They are real regions.
Isn't it K? Or is it spelled with the C?
No, they're identical.
Wow.
So the first 2 generations of Pokemon were set in Japan. Well, the first 4 are actually set in Japan. But
yeah, I got to do that different then. You're right.
Gens 3 and 4 used fake names.
Gotcha. I'll do that.
I figured I'd like. By the way,
no, that's fair. That's fair.
Just so we don't end up on a list somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. The Kanto region, I believe, is the region that has Tokyo, and Johto has Kyoto, I think.
We've already said enough things on this podcast in previous episodes to get swatted. Let's not give extra reasons.
Man. See, okay. If you wanted to go dark, because I can't help myself.
I mean, we do.
You want to do make Unova great again, because Unova is the U.S. region. Those are the games that are set in New York.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if you played it or have seen it, Baron, but Unova literally, it came out pretty recent after 9/11. And so there's a 9/11 ground zero in that Pokemon game.
Oh man.
Where they were like this is where the site where a Pokemon tragically went nuclear and blew up. So there's a crater in the middle of New York.
Whoa.
If you so Pokemon is an alternate Earth, and all of the events of Earth have happened in a Pokemon way in the Pokemon universe.
Okay.
Like in Gen 6 was set in Paris. And so you can go to a World War II museum in Pokemon where it was fought by Pokemon, and they have a memorial to the thousands of Pokemon that died in the International War.
That Lieutenant Surge fought in.
Yes, like that's canon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have been that war. It would have been like Desert Storm or whatever. But yeah, like Lieutenant Surge is in red and blue because of the U.S. Army bases in Japan. Because the imagery of an American soldier is what Japanese people think of when they think military.
Okay.
Oh, and you have a dad in every game. like there's always the joke of like, why is every Pokemon trainer raised by single mothers? And like, it is tragically because of the perception in Japan that dad is always at work, so you never see him. So we don't have to render a dad in game because children in Japan don't have to have a stable image of their fathers. Yeah,
And
yeah.
There's the one where your dad is one of the gym leaders.
Yeah, but that's Gen 3. But he's always at the gym. The only time you ever get to see your dad in that game is when you go visit him at work. Like Sun and Moon, when they did Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they made one subtle change to your house. You can go look at, there's a car in the garage all of a sudden, and you go look at it and you're like, oh, dad bought this car for us to drive around on the island, but I guess we won't need it that much. You don't see him. You never see this mysterious dad that has a car in the garage.
Wow.
Yep. Effing sad. Like, because I don't think, I guarantee you that they weren't sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, well clearly we need to represent absent fathers in Pokemon. Like these two things have to be there.
Well, isn't that just like, I mean, even here in America, it's like it's a point of pride to almost be at work all the time.
Yeah. I mean, not as much as it is in Japan, but yeah.
Japan's a whole different story. You're right. Like I mean, but we also have the American, working dad trope in movies where like the guy that always works only is free once he, throws his phone in the ocean or some nonsense.
Right. Yeah. Like he can't make it to his kid's game, and he's like, oh no. And Neverland and gets him back and throws his phone.
Yeah. And it's always some contrived thing. Like no dad, like it's never like the dad can just be like, oh, I did it. It's like, well, if it wasn't for the shoes, the magic shoes that Genie gave me, I never would have understood the value of my family.
Right. God forbid they just have a personal revelation of just I missed my kid's game. What an asshole I am. Let's try to dial this back a bit.
If it wasn't for the fact that I now have conversations with cereal mascots, why?
Congratulations to Jingle All the Way for being the one to do it without magic.
Right. So, like the problem with the work culture in Japan is like when you go home from work, if you so as I've been learning Japanese, there is a phrase for like letting your boss know that you're going home, and it literally translates, I apologize for leaving before you. If your boss is still there, all of the workers should be there. Period. It's just a cultural expectation.
Personal expectation, I see it the exact opposite. If your workers are there, your manager should still be there. Your boss should still be there.
Right.
Yeah. But the other real big issue, and I know that this is like off topic from Pokemon, but this came up in the Marvel Spider-Man TV show documentary, where like, by the way, it's on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen it, the whole reason that like mecha stuff is big in Japan, like robots and stuff got big, was because of the one season of the Spider-Man show that got aired in Japan. But the dude that did it, like, he got told by his wife, who's Japanese, she was like, oh, if you want to get this pilot launched, you have to go out and drink with these guys after work, because no one does business deals in Japan, or it certainly didn't at the time, at the office. Everything is done over drinks after work. So it is still a work function to be out at dinner and drinking for like 6 hours after the workday is over.
I still see that in like TV shows and stuff from Japan. People still doing business deals after, like, I mean, late after work too.
Yeah, you get to work at like 7 a.m, and then you're on the train at like 11 o'clock at night going home.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Midnight Diner, watch it. It's a great show.
I will watch that.
It's great. Netflix.
Although so like, I wonder if the perception might change. I want to see what Pokemon game has that perception flip, because that started to change like with people our age and younger in Japan. When like offered like, hey, do you want to go out for drinks? They're like, no, I just work for 9 hours straight. Why on God's, like, I have a family at home. I have to go be a dad. Why would I say? And that's been going on for like 5 to 10 years. And the older generation has literally said, we have no idea how to get business done with people under 40 in Japan because they won't go out and drink with us.
Isn't it funny? It's like even here, like in America, you have, hell, you have people my generation, even your generation, that are already lambasting like Generation Z because they just don't know how they work. And it's like, it's because they learned what they have off of us and they're adjusting.
Yeah.
You adjust now. It's time for you to adjust.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, like Japan and adjust is not
right.
Yeah.
They're like, that's a whole like
literally everyone who feels a certain way is going to have to die before something changes.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, God, I want to disagree, but like, but it's funny because like that stuff shows up in Pokemon, like that. Those like there are so many like cultural assumptions that it wasn't until the later generations, it wasn't until they started using fake names for the regions, Gen 3 and up, that they started having an international focus. It wasn't until the Pokemon Company actually went out of their way to do market research outside of Japan to see what makes the games popular, because prior to that, like JRPGs were considered something that you couldn't get sold in the West, which is literally just Dragon Quest. All Japanese game development was convinced you couldn't sell JRPGs in the West because Dragon Quest didn't sell here when we bought Final Fantasy and Pokemon like crazy. But Pokemon caused that resurgence for everybody else. Like if you like turn-based JRPGs, thank Pokemon. They would not have gotten made. They would not have gotten greenlit.
Yeah, my first turn-based RPG was actually Dragon Quest, which is Dragon Warrior over here.
Yeah,
that was like my first one. I loved it. But that is specifically why I like Pokemon, though. So it's kind of like the opposite for me. I like Pokemon because of Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest. I love it.
Sure.
I love turn-based RPGs. Yeah.
Yeah, think of like businesses getting like every business decision in Japan is led by spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Like character design, all characters have to be fit and attractive because there is a line on a spreadsheet that says this has to happen this way. That actually came out by a number of game developers when they were talking about Ghost of Tsushima, which if you haven't played that on PS4 is incredible. But that was made in the States, but they heavily partnered with Sony to make sure that it was culturally appropriate to Japan. But they did a bunch of stuff in that game that like Japanese game development producers are told like you can just never do. You can't have a character that's not like conventionally ultra attractive. You can't have a character. You can't like have realistic depictions of interfamily struggle. And that actually came out in another interview for Pokemon where they were like, yeah, the reason that we don't have dads is because we don't want to talk about how, like, literally, instead of having that conversation about like, oh, hey, here's an image of a dad being at home. What if we just don't include the character? We don't ever have to talk about it. And if we have a dad, he has to be at work, and that's okay. That is a thing we can do because that's not going to cause controversy.
Jeez.
Yep. Yeah, like Pokemon has a ton of weird like cultural stuff in it that some does translate, some doesn't. Like again, I mentioned Unova has the literal Ground Zero.
Mm-hmm.
The Gen 3 had Groudon and Kyogre, had the legendaries come out of all of the nuclear fear, which also bred Godzilla. Like Groudon is Godzilla and Kyogre is, supposed to be another sort of Toho kaiju, literally because of the fear of nuclear reactors melting down in Japan.
Right.
Never thought of that before.
Yep. That's confirmed. God, so like cults are a big thing in Japan, by the way. It was like a literal problem the government had to like form a task force at one point to deal with. And that's why Gen 5 features a literal Pokemon cult, because people standing on the street and recruiting you for some crazy thing and like pulling you into something that sounds really reasonable but is absolutely horrible is where the idea for teams almost comes from.
Right.
small political action groups being these sort of like radicalized forces popping up just overnight out of nowhere, and that was a problem in the 80s in Japan for sure, and so that's why we have teams in Pokemon.
Team Rocket, Team Magma, Team Aqua, Team whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that
Literally.
makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And it came out there were Japan the Game Freak was like, man, I'm glad that that's really weird that everybody just kind of accepted this, because in Japan we thought this was normal and it was a thing that just happened, and apparently you don't have people
thought. I think one of the reasons we accepted it so easily over here, I always thought with Giovanni being the leader of Team Rocket that it was like a mafia kind of stand-in.
Right.
It's an idea in America, at least, that the Italians run the mob, and you're gonna put like Giovanni as the leader of Team Rocket. That's what I always thought, and I mean, that's my own problematic thinking or whatever. But I was a kid, so and that's what the media taught us. So
right, you're not wrong though. That's why they named him Giovanni.
Yeah,
that is why they gave him an Italian name, as effed up as that is. But then again, organized crime of any part of the world doesn't run around in matching outfits, taking over news stations. And of course, a lot of that's embellished for the sake of having drama in a video game. But the existence of those groups is a real thing. It shows up in the Yakuza series. Actually, if you've ever played those games, in Yakuza 0, you have to, it's set in the 80s, and you have to there's a side quest where you rescue a woman from a cult that's just gathering inside of a random office building. And at one point, one of the characters is like, oh yeah, huh, pop-up cult, huh? Yeah. That's a shame. But then that's why cults show up in Silent Hill. That's why cults show up in all other, but in it's cults are fun. And then sometimes summon kaiju. And then you show them the power of friendship, and everything is okay.
I mean, we wouldn't have Mothra without cults.
It's true.
No cults, no Mothra.
I mean, to be fair, it's a weird cult devoted to two tiny, tiny, tiny little girls, but,
Yeah, but at least the magical moth that stops the giant atomic breathing lizard is real.
Yeah.
If you were by the way, we're the cult for sentient space lasers, and you're like, that's kind of wild, and then aliens show up and the space lasers save us from the aliens, and you're like, you guys are right. Yeah,
you'd be like, all right, cool, keep doing your thing. As a matter of fact, I might join.
Are there dudes do you have a Discord?
Yeah, we started Pokemon Anon.
Once it's kind of proven that the thing that they are worshiping or working toward is real, it's kind of like, well, I can't say anything now.
Yeah, I mean, in Pokemon, it's always real. Until again, I don't know if you guys kept up with the end of Gen 7. Gen 7's when things started to get weird.
Which games were those?
Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon.
And Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Sun and Moon was my attempt to get back into Pokemon after I fell off with Diamond and Pearl, and I didn't finish it. I mean, I tried. I went gung ho, and I was like, I'm gonna try this, and I just didn't finish it.
Honestly, I think especially for those of us that started with Gen 1, Gen 6 is better. There's a lot more Gen 1 throwback. You can actually catch the legendary birds in it. You can get Mewtwo. Sure. It's a much more traditional Pokemon feel. Gen 7 did away with the gyms.
Well, I'll just be honest with you. I thought that was really cool with Gen 7. I thought the trials were awesome. I thought that was really cool. The reason I didn't finish it was because I realized how much of a grind Pokemon was again. And I was just like, I don't want to grind.
At least they got rid of only one Pokemon getting experience at a time. With Gen 6, at least your whole party gets experience that.
Yeah, at the beginning. But even still, I was like, this is going to be a grind. This is going to be long. And I'm going to spend a bunch of time. The amount of time I was going to spend doing stuff I wanted to do versus stuff I didn't want to do, didn't balance out for me. So it's just but the trials, I thought those were neat. I was I was on board for the trials and stuff. I was like, yeah, this is cool. This isn't just another Pokemon battle.
Sure. They do
But-
get a little long in the tooth, though. Like, there's just so many of them. It keeps you from getting to the end. Like, again, I think Gen 6 doesn't do that. I think Gen 6 X and Y did way better with, like, getting you to the fun part real fast. And then Gen 8 on Switch is the so I got it before I get to Gen 8. I got to stay on target. Gen 7 added Lovecraftian horrors into the game from Beyond the Stars. You literally like straight up, they have Pokemon that have Lovecraftian style names. They're called Ultra Beasts from like an extra dimensional tear in reality. They had to make special Ultra Pokeballs for them so that they can catch them, and they're all like these horrible nightmare creatures that battle just like Pokemon, but they're basically like if Lovecraft made Pokemon.
It's funny. It's like they know all this background. Like we'll talk about like the people involved in this whole thing. These people know where they came from, obviously, or we would have not have gotten that information. They know that it takes a special ball to get them. They know they're just creepy fucking beasts. We thought that this would be a great idea to capture these things and use in battles.
It's a mega corporation. Like you literally get to the end of the game, and the woman who was doing it's like we could have infinite power. We could harness. They've got strange energies where physics don't apply, and you go into this subdimension, and there's no sky. It's all dark and like it's creepy as hell. And an evil jellyfish Pokemon mind controls her, fills her with dark energy, and you have to like almost beat this woman. You fight her. You hit her through the Pokemon with Pokemon. So, and like you have, and like her daughter standing there with you, and she's like, "It's okay. I know you might kill my mother doing this." And you're like, "Yeah, but if we don't, the world will end because she's going to awaken Pokethulu and destroy everything."
The face that Barrett is making right now is the like, I might need to go buy some Pokemon games.
It's Sun and Moon, and then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Like if you like, you don't need
to. You quit as soon as you got a werewolf.
Well, yeah. Why didn't you guys tell me to keep going?
So crazy. So it gets even weirder. So they did Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which was kind of like the tertiary games, right?
Right.
Like before they did Yellow, Crystal, Platinum, and so on. They did Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where they added 100 new Pokemon, and they added more of the extra dimensional nonsense. They added these people that are like dimension hoppers. They added sliders to this game, and they're like, you have these things called Pokemon here, and they're like measuring the like natural energies of the universe in Pokemon, and they're like, yeah, we're trying to prevent all of the multiverse from collapsing. You 10-year-old child, can you help us do that? Because in like their realm, Cthulhu did awaken, and they're in like these spacesuits. It is nuts. And like you eventually like the ultimate big bad is this Pokemon called Necrozma, which is this. If you haven't seen Necrozma, it is a psychic type. It is made out of black crystal that cannot be seen through, and its edges are like the shining light of the space in between stars, and it's only a psychic type because it shoots lasers at you from its like extra dimensional being space. Yeah, Pokemon went hard. And then like Gen 8, which is the ones on Switch.
Right. The current generation, if you will.
Yeah. They kind of wanted to go. They didn't keep a lot of that. They brought it back kinda with the Crown Tundra DLC.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with the setting for Gen 8, it's the UK inverted. You start off in southern Scotland and you go north to England is the end of the game. And then the DLC, the first one adds the Isle of Man, which is a kung fu island. And then they added the Crown Tundra. You can go to Scotland. And it's filled with myths and legends. And there's like a little horse there's a little like fairy Pokemon that mind controls your guide and tells you to find his great steed and get the people to believe in him again so that he has power, because it is a Pokemon fueled by the power of belief. As long as it's worshipped, it has moves it can use, and then you catch it and put it in Pokeball. But they added this cool 4-player Kaiju co-op mode, which is my favorite part of the new generations, because if you want to play Pokemon with people, but the only multiplayer mode aside from trading for the longest time was competitive, the new generation adds this 4-player co-op like raid mode where you fight a Kaiju version of a Pokemon. It's awesome. The Crown Tundra DLC adds this almost roguelike thing where you don't get to pick the Pokemon that you go in with. It's almost like a Nuzlocke co-op raid thing where they just give you Pokemon from a list. If your Pokemon faints, you're screwed. The rest of your team has to get farther into another Pokemon so that you can catch it and use that one, and you have to there's a mysterious Pokemon at the end that you can catch, and it's always a legendary, right? But the story behind it is oh yeah, by the way, there's this cave in Scotland that has an extra dimensional portal to horrors from beyond. So we turned it into a tourist trap so that people can keep murdering everything in there so that they don't escape and take over the world. Because if we can keep
the most shit I've ever heard in my life.
If we can keep these Pokemon Disneyland numbers up, nobody will know that there's a Necrozma down there keeping these horrible, why does England have the ability to create Kaiju Pokemon? Oh, it turns out that just beneath the Earth's crust, there is this gas being created by, again, another horror from beyond. The game ends with a giant, disjointed dragon thing that shoots world-ending lasers on top of a building, straight up Gozer from Ghostbusters, trying to destroy the world. And you're like, yeah, I guess I'll throw a Master Ball at it. That's fine. And then they're like, yeah, just maybe could you get your friends to keep the tourism numbers up just so that things don't go sideways? It'd be great, please.
Can you imagine being that all-powerful probably not even in its mind, not even a Pokemon. This all-powerful, ultra-dimensional horror, and then all of a sudden you're in stasis in a ball, and you have to listen to this motherfucker when he lets you out.
An 11-year-old walks up, turns his hat backwards, and says, "You're coming with me, motherfucker."
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I'm talking about Eternatus. It's like look at the design on that thing. It's wild. So
I'm convinced that there's nothing special about the Pokeball. I think it is just shock and audacity. Pokemon in line. It's like it'll get let out of the ball, and the things the little humans do your special move. He's like,
all right, first of all, how many badges you got?
That's his concern. I
don't want to be. Look, what I got to tell everybody else is trapped in their extra dimensional hell that I did what you said. At least prove to me that you're not some chump. All right, you got 7. That's good enough. I'm only level 45. Who am I to judge? Right? All right, yeah, they've been slowly since Gen 7. Somebody at Game Freak was like, yo, what if the Pokemon world is just constantly teetering on the brink of collapse? What if the multiverse is just going to fucking explode one day? And that's going to be the new... I'm convinced that's what's going to be the origin of the Pokemon Arceus story when that comes out at the end of the year. If you haven't looked at Pokemon Legends Arceus, the one where they're going into feudal Japan, it's going to be Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the one to bring me back to Pokemon. I think I'm pre-ordering it.
Oh yeah.
It.
Oh yeah.
I mean that and Pokemon Snap, because the original Pokemon Snap was me and my wife's jam. We'd sit down and figure stuff out. And
yeah, but they've got the original. So in Gen 2, they established that Pokeballs are actually made out of acorns.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a dude that you meet. That was when they started all the weird other Pokeballs, the dive ball, net ball, so on. He was
Quick ball.
back in the day, we used to carve them out of these special acorns, and you could trap a Pokemon inside of the acorn. And now Pokeballs just use a technological version of the acorn technology. So if you look at the Pokeballs in Legends, they are like wooden carved out of acorns with just little latches on them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Could you like imagine being stuck in that? Like, I am the world's most powerful interdimensional dragon monster, and this 11-year-old put me in a nut.
Yeah, that's very much you pop out and you're like, how? You know what? You put me in a nut. I don't know what else you're going to do to me. I'm just going to do what you say.
The Pokecacity.
The Pokecacity. But not even realizing that it could just wipe this child off the face of the earth. It is just afraid of what else it could do. Why don't you break out, man? He put me in a nut, man. What do you want me to do?
It's the ultra dimensional horror version of the elephant and the rope.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you've heard of this, but like in the circus, like they used to like take baby elephants and like they would tie it to a rope to a stake, and like the baby elephant couldn't get the stake or the rope out of the stake out of the ground. So like when they grow up and they're adult elephants, they use the same rope and the same stake, and the elephant could easily they break that rope or remove that stake, but because they were a kid and they couldn't, they don't even try. So it's like the ultra dimensional version of that. They like put this ultra dimensional thing inside of a nut, and they're like, I don't even want to try to break out of this thing because I don't know what's waiting for me if I do.
Right.
I broke out of 7 of these before he caught me, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I gotta tell you, man, trying to break out of them nuts. You know, yeah, I'm done. He tells me what to do now. This little kid thinks I only know how to do 4 things. I'm not going to argue.
Right. Because most of what I could do could just end this world. So, I mean, yeah, it's probably for the best.
Like, I might kill this kid, but the kid feeds me, sometimes lets me out so we go camping.
That's some crazy shit.
I get to go to daycare, and sometimes that's pretty rad.
The little animals there look at me kind of weird.
But it turns out they're also all nut captives. So that's fine.
I mean, who knows? One day I may just snap and release them all. I don't know. Right now I'm cool.
Again, Ghostbusters. Like, just pull the switch. All the Pokeballs burst out, and they're all like, it's murdering time. Haha, turns out we know 5 moves.
Somebody secure Bill's PC.
That's it. Bill's PC is the Ghostbusters storage. Like the thousands of forgotten Pokemon that have just been left in there for somebody's personal collection.
The first thing they do when they bust out is mourn over all the candies.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Guys, you don't want to know what happened. Oh, God, who's the professor in Go?
Oh,
isn't it another tree?
They're all trees, yeah.
They're all trees.
We're going to go with Elm. No.
Elms? No. Ooh, that Elm was Gen 2. Willow.
Yep.
Yeah, like, oh, man, guys, you don't want to know what happens if you get sent to the Willow tree.
Hey, you know, folklore willows are, generally evil, and, they drown you in water. Oh.
He's got a grinder. They turn you into candy and feed you to your kin. The only way to make you stronger is to make you eat your own. It's like the world's worst Highlander. There can only be 3,000, and they must all be Jolly Ranchers.
Oh, that's what that one Pokemon speaks up. The grind. Oh no, I was in there for a while. They threw some of you guys in there. I turned you into candy. It's just that's really good.
Oh God. See, I wonder I'm really, really, really excited for Legends because I can't wait for because I think Pokemon Anon is going to blow up once we get feudal Japanese Pokemon, you know?
Yeah.
Because what things are we going to learn about this universe when there's no technology involved?
That's what you don't like. People think that the technology is the horror of the Pokemon world, but technology is actually the curtain that's keeping us. Like it's the shiny veneer that's keeping us from the actual horror within.
Love it.
Unless you're in Gen 7, at which point people were like, no, we're going to turn it around. Because there's a horrible science experiment Pokemon. You go into the basement of that corporation, and it's like going into the Umbrella basement in every Resident Evil game. Like horrible experiments.
Well, that's basically the Pokemon Mansion in Gen 1.
That's
true. It's even a mansion. I mean, come on. It is a lab beneath a mansion. I mean, how much more Umbrella can you get?
Yeah. You're not wrong. Silphco, man, they're out to get you. They better living through chemistry my ass. They like
I can't wait to see some of these theories.
Who invents a scope for seeing the dead? Like, who funds that project? Who greenlights that? And is like, well, look, this is experimental, and we'd like for you to have it for saving all of us, but you can see ghosts. We're not gonna lie to you. The realm of the dead, it's scary. You should probably put it in a nut.
It's the answer to everything. Have an 11-year-old put it in a nut.
Well, the nuts are digital now. You can upload them to the cloud.
That's pretty neat, right?
Yeah, there's a guy named Bill. He figured it out.
Who would have thought the digital nuts would have been that big?
The number one thing you can have on your side in the Pokemon universe is an 11-year-old with a nut.
It's just like we always joke because in Gen 4 they introduced Arceus, and Arceus is the god. There's no the capital Poke G, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it created all Pokemon, and you're like, hey, look, I regret to inform you that I happen to have I can whittle. And that's doom for you because that tree over there turns out can capture God. And Arceus is like, maybe you shouldn't. You're like, maybe you'll complete my Pokedex. What's that? Little assignment I've been working on. I've been filling all the details afterwards. It doesn't matter if they're accurate. It's going to look really good on somebody's coffee table. Yeah.
I can see the dead now. That's great.
And after you catch Arceus, you're like, I caught God. Maybe the devil's next. Let's go see Giratina.
Is Giratina Poke Devil?
That's what a lot of people say. I mean, he's like the Lord of the Dark Realm or whatever it is. So,
it does create a shadow of your soul and kill you in that game.
Yeah.
Again, Pokemon games getting weirdly dark at the end. When you go to Giratina's realm, it turns you into two people, murders one of them, and then you're it asks the transhumanism question, is a copy of you still you? Because the original you doesn't come out of there. The original you dies, and a copy of your character comes out of the Giratina realm.
Dropping the ship of Theseus years before WandaVision.
Giratina pops up. Are you familiar with the ship of Theseus? Yes, I am. Are you still you if you contain none of your original parts? Let's find out. Well, Giratina, I don't know about all these philosophical questions, but I do got one there for you. What is it, shadow of your former self? Do you fit in a nut?
Fit in my nut. I don't sure.
It's like Batman looking up at Superman and said, "Do you bleed?" It's like, "Do you fit in a nut?" You will.
Oh my God. Batman with Superman and a Pokeball. I'm not comfortable with that at all, but if it happens, it will.
Just like Batman's a Pokemon trainer now, but his Pokemon are all of the other heroes in the DC universe.
The Justice League. Yeah.
With their emblems on the balls.
Yes. Go.
It really is like, let's see, I got my Super Ball, Flash Ball, I got my Amazon Ball, Aqua Ball. They sound like fucking Pokeballs already.
Yeah, I got Martian Manhunter and the Hunter Ball.
Oh
God. Oh God. This is it's like come out of the realm of like just God, this is like Batman going up against Lex Luthor. Hey Lex, you seem to be a pretty tough guy. I gotta tell you, you're pretty smart. But I have the ultimate philosophical question for you.
bit of a mastermind, if you will.
If I throw out my Wonder Woman here, chung! Okay, this has just gotten weird. Oh, it's gonna get weirder, buddy.
Oh man, you don't even know. You don't even know.
You might be strong enough to break out the first time, but how many nuts can you take?
Well, let's just say I'm a bit of a dick for dropping out Wonder Woman's ball. Let's just say that. I wanted this fight to be fast, so I could have dropped out my Robin ball. But fuck you, Wonder Woman.
Hey, Alfred, call the guy.
He's got a whole fucking like bandolier of Robin balls.
Yeah. Oh no. He's the Robin type gym leader. But also because Batman doesn't kill all of the different Robins, no false swipes, so that you can knock someone down to 1 HP.
Oh jeez.
Oh God.
Yeah. Alfred call the guy is now just Alfred calling the guy who makes the Pokeballs.
No, he's the professor.
That was what I was gonna say. Alfred's a professor.
Oh, Jesus.
Or is Alfred? No, Alfred's your mom.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Fucking what's his name? Fox. Professor Fox.
Yeah.
Someone get on the fucking fan art right now.
I cannot with this.
I'm still just in shock over your choice of dropping Wonder Woman out first. He's not even playing. He's not even playing. He's like, this is not.
No.
Right now.
Well, Lex Luthor's been able to take on Superman. You got to respect it, right?
Right.
Like you're like, I know you're a normal dude. However, you might have like some sort of suit. And he's like, yeah, but I mean, this is like Batman. What have you done? And he's like, well, you'll never guess the crossover. Flash will have wished he didn't make that Infinite Earth show up. I'll tell you that right now.
He made a mistake of letting me know I could fit people in nuts.
Fitting a nut.
His parents died when he was 11, and that day he swore he was going to be the best there ever was.
Oh, I have this.
It just keeps going. It's just like it fits too well.
Well, the image is Batman as an 11-year-old. Now, he's still a kid. He's still a kid, but he's got like fucking full-grown Superman, full-grown Wonder Woman, Flashpoint Flash.
Does that make like the Joker his rival?
Yeah. Oh no! Yeah.
Yes.
Oh God! And then like the Joker would have the Rogues Gallery as his Pokemon.
Oh, yep.
Oh no! Like
He has a whole bandolier of Harley balls, like 9 Harley balls, but 8 of them are just dead bodies.
Huh.
Wait. Okay, before that got even darker than I wanted.
There's a whole comic story that involves that. That's
okay.
The comics, so they'll understand.
It's debatable whether or not he was gaslighting and like whether or not they were actual Harley. So
right.
Gotcha. Well, okay, but then how did he have 9 Pokeballs? He can only carry 6. Like that's right.
Because he's the Joker.
Harley also knows 5 moves.
Most of them involve her mallet.
One of them is Splash, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. God, So many ethical questions about Pokemon now that I had not considered.
There is. I can't remember who did it. It could have been Smosh. I don't know, but they did like a little series where it was red type Pokemon or something.
Yeah.
Funny.
My human type,
Mhm.
which like in Pokemon is its own subgroup, is its own egg group for breeding, is humanoid type.
Oh,
And
Mr.
like-
Mime, Jinx.
yeah. Mr. Mime got an evolution in Gen 8, by the way. Mr.
Oh.
Rhyme.
get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a tap dancing wearing a tuxedo and a bowler hat.
Is that where I thought that was going to go?
You should look up Galarian Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme.
Wow.
They're ice types.
Yeah, Mr. Rhyme, I would imagine that there would have been, well, I mean, I guess it does rhyme. You know what? That's fine.
Well, he goes from being one kind of performance artist to another performance artist.
It is a true evolution. I'm going to evolve my career.
No more busking on the street.
Remember when they set Mr. Mime on fire in the Pokemon movie?
Yes.
Yeah. God.
That was pretty dark. The Detective Pikachu, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the movie is way better than the game. In case you were like, I wonder if I ever want to play the Detective Pikachu game.
No,
There you go.
fair enough.
It ends in a way. Have you both seen the movie?
Yeah.
So you save his dad at the end. At the end of the game, they tried to tease it so that they could keep going, and so you don't. Like that whole your dad saving Mewtwo and that causing your Pikachu to be able to talk was absolutely a thing, but it's not like your dad's soul is trapped inside of a Pikachu body. Ryan Reynolds doesn't suddenly pop out of a Pikachu because Mewtwo can happen. It just ends.
Disappointed. No.
Yeah. Well, they were like, we're gonna do a second one because it's like a point and click adventure game, is what it is.
Yeah.
Man, we're running out of time, but I do love the Pokemon offshoots. If you got we were talking about Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
If you've never played the Pokemon Ranger games.
Oh, there's some good stuff. Really great music in those too.
Uh-huh.
Some of the Pokemon Ranger songs are a bop.
So Pokemon Rangers are they're like forest rangers, but they have they were DS games. They have little wands. You have to draw circles around Pokemon to temporarily trap them in a net. And you'd be like, there's a forest fire. Quick, go find a wild Squirtle. Trap it for 15 minutes and force it to put the fire out. Okay, and then let it go. You're good.
Oh, kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they exist as a service that people can rent in the or borrow in the Pokemon universe to help you traverse across distances if you're not a trainer. If you're like, I need to go through the woods, but look, I don't got no nuts. And I'm not about to start. That shit's scary as hell. You kidding me? That motherfucker breathes fire. Or poisonous bugs and shit. That's terrifying.
Everything force could annihilate us.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a ranger, and so the rangers will walk you from point A to point B.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I always thought the Pokemon Snap thing was a missed opportunity on the Wii U. I feel like the Wii U was the perfect system for a Pokemon Snap game with that extra controller with the screen on it. It's it's a camera. It's a camera.
Mm-hmm.
You can point it. It had the gyro control, so it's just such a huge missed opportunity. And my guess is they're going to do something like that with the Switch. But
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they did the people that make Fatal Frame did that literally for the Wii U. The final Fatal Frame game was that. Man, the Wii U technologically, I absolutely love that system. It's one of the best systems Nintendo ever made, but it just didn't sell. Terrible name.
Yeah. I felt like that was I can tell you as someone who worked at GameStop when the Wii U came out, that was what killed the Wii U, because people I'd be like, hey, you want to pre-order the Wii U? And people are like, what do I need a Wii U for? I have a Wii. And it's well, it's different. And they'd be like, how? And I'm like, it's an entirely different system. It's why'd they call it the Wii U? I don't need an extra controller for my Wii. So many people thought it was just an extra controller for their Wii. It was crazy.
Let me tell you, as someone who's watched Kung Pao Enter the Fist, Wii U was not a great name.
You're
But
absolutely
it was also the best. name.
True.
And also now I'm thinking of that's a lot of nuts.
Mhm. If you are one of the 5 people that still owns a Wii U, you can get the DS Pokemon Ranger games on that and play that on your TV, and it is the best way to play the Pokemon Ranger games. Like, do that before they shut the Wii U eShop down.
You probably don't have
The Wii U.
The Wii U eShop. The Wii U.
Wii.
Be forewarned, though, Nintendo does not depreciate the value of their games, so launch titles for the Wii U are still full price.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's ballsy.
It's always been. This is the way it's always been.
Nintendo firmly believes, they're like, our games don't get worse over time. Why would we charge you less for them? If it was worth $60 when it came out, it's worth $60 now. And they're right. People still pay it.
Yeah.
They're like, people that...
See, I have
if anything, people pay more once you can't buy it anymore.
I have a hard time arguing that logic, but at the same time, I could argue that logic for a day and a half, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's clearly because like other like as interest wanes in a thing, you drop your price on it to get latecomers to buy in so that you still make some money off of a thing.
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't have that problem. Nintendo's like Disney, you know? They're like, if you want to play Mario Kart, you're going to sit here and go, you know what? I really want to play Mario Kart. And you look at it and they're like, Mario Kart is a $60 value. You're like, well, I want to play Mario Kart. Like, their games sell themselves, so they don't have to pull you in with a depreciated price.
I understand that. However, it's like when you have like you said, their interest has waned. In something like this, their value is based on interest. And when interest wanes, their value goes down. And if they were to say, let's just say, sell one game at $60, and that's all they could sell, I know that's not realistic, but we're going, whatever. But if they lowered it to $30, and instead of, one game they sold 5 because it was so cheap, they made money.
Yep.
I think the idea is that a lot of times the interest doesn't wane. Like, people still buy it out as long as it's
there will still be interest. But I'm talking about the overall collective. The interest is still there with a smaller group of people. But say you have like a cheaper Mario Kart. Let's just say Mario Kart, a cheaper Mario Kart. And they're like, oh, fuck, I haven't played Mario Kart in a long time. I'm glad this isn't $50 because there's no fucking way in hell I'd pay $50 for this piece of crap game. I know it's not a piece of crap game. But, we're thinking of the lowest common denominator right now.
Right.
So yes, the true fans are going to pay that money. Yes, I get that, but
yeah, well, Mario Kart 8 is a really good example because we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. It is just a port of the Wii U game with like a small amount of extra features, right?
Yep.
It's still full price on the Wii U.
Yep.
There are Zelda games on the Wii U, the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD re-releases that have not been ported to Switch yet. Those are still full price.
They did do Nintendo Selects for a little while, where like Nintendo games that sold a certain amount, they would re-release them at a lower price.
Oh, sure.
But I think Nintendo Selects might be the reason they don't do that anymore, because they realize that people were still buying however many they released. That's how many people bought at the price that they asked for. So it's not like they've got like if there's a bunch of Nintendo stock sitting around unbought, it's pre-owned. Yeah, and like it's like however many Nintendo produces, it gets bought at the price that they ask.
Yeah, and Pokemon especially on the secondhand market, Pokemon is worth double any other franchise still. Yeah. The only ones that haven't skyrocketed in price are the original Game Boy Color ones, Gen 2 and Gen 1, Gen 2, because those can't be traded forward. But as soon as you go Game Boy Advance and DS and up, those games are. I was actually just in my local retro store the other day, and like Fire Red was going for $120. 2 years ago, it was like $30.
Now these are used games.
Used, loose carts. No box, no manual, $120. Emerald was $150, stuff like that. All of the DS ones, the ones that the ones that fewer people bought, are still over $100 per game.
Right.
If it is an unpopular game like Diamond and Pearl were, they're like 70 or 80 on the secondhand market.
Yep.
And Nintendo knows that. So yeah,
and that's the thing. If people are buying the stuff that they don't make anymore pre-owned at like 2 to 4 times what they sold it for, then if they ever re-released it, why wouldn't they sell it at like launch prices? I mean, that's still half the price that you buy it at pre-owned somewhere.
Yeah, what are the digital 3DS one re-releases for?
Oh, I bought that years ago.
I'd have to grab my 3DS.
I want to say they were like $30 or $40.
Gotcha. But like X and Y, so Gen 6 and Gen 7 on the 3DS are still full price, even though we're looking at new Gen 8 games.
Yeah.
Those like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games that are just Game Boy Advance games on the Wii U eShop are still full price at the same price for their digital versions that they were for the physical ones when they launched. They're still like $30.
Because people still buy it. That's what it comes down to.
And Pokemon sells.
I mean, that's the number one. That's one thing you cannot argue is Pokemon sells. Number one media selling franchise in the world. Like Pokemon sells more than Disney. I mean, like you can't.
It's wild.
Pokemon sells. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't found a way to get like into the toy maker market, because Gundam is still the number one hobby toy in the world. They make up 90% of the plastic model market, and I'm surprised that Pokemon hasn't gotten into that.
I feel like they just can't figure out a way to make it.
Pokemon. Maybe they haven't figured out how to fit a Gundam in a nut.
As soon as they figure out how to put a Gundam in a nut, it's over.
Oh,
yo, check out my Zaku ball.
What? I don't want to. There's not enough space. You better chuck it. You better chuck that bitch all the way over there.
Like, we haven't really talked about the card game because that's still huge.
Oh,
and like, oh my god,
we haven't even touched it.
Like the card, like I didn't keep up with it, and I'm guessing you guys didn't either.
I will tell you, I played it a lot when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go. My local game shop had Pokemon night on Wednesday nights, and I used to go and play Pokemon tournaments every Wednesday, trying out different decks and stuff like that. Up until the point where that purple stall deck like ruined everyone. But I will tell you, I bought a lot of Happy Meals this year.
And
I did manage to get my hands on a full set of those 25th anniversary cards.
Holy shit.
So
those are going to be worth some change in 10 years, dude.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to frame it. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to like get a matted frame and line them all next to each other and frame it and put it on my wall.
Yeah, make sure those stay in perfect condition, because you will be those need to be preserved.
I say and go ahead and get them graded. Get them graded right now, and then they'll be in a protective case.
Yeah, so, but I bought a lot of Happy Meals this year.
So, like, thinking of it from like a preservation standpoint, I a couple weeks ago was on the Hit Save e-reader charity stream, where we were raising money for their e-reader preservation project. They needed every e-reader card ever made in order to make sure that they were digitally preserved forever. The hardest ones to get are the Pokemon ones that were only released in Japan in magazines, because in Gen 3, and we got some of them here in the States, but in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, you cannot complete the Pokedex in the States. You can't without Fire Red and Leaf Green, because some of the Pokemon that you can catch only came from building the trainer towers from the e-reader cards, and because the e-reader didn't take off here, they didn't make those cards stateside. So there were promotional cards from different gaming magazines around Japan at the time that had exclusive Pokemon. It's the only way to fill out your Pokedex, and you need those cards to build out the tower. And yeah, so that's the sort of thing where, like, like those, I mean, there are no data stored on those Happy Meal cards, but 20 years from now, somebody's going to be like, God, I need these. And you're going to be like, well, for a couple $1,000s, you can have all of my, my pristine ones, and they will pay it. Like we just had to raise several $1,000s so that we could buy the cards off the secondhand market,
right?
The e-reader project, and we're way closer to getting that preservation done.
Who knows? Those Pokemon cards might send my kid to college.
At least get them a semester at community college. You never know.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if you guys ever went to any tabletop cons like Origins or Gen Con or that sort of thing, but the Pokemon card presence was still strong there.
Still is. Last year I went, they still had tournaments going on. Ooh, wait, maybe not the last year I went. Yes, no, they did. Last year I went, they had a huge table, a huge presence there. Yeah, they were still going for Oregon.
I will say, you warned me, Ryan, and I didn't listen because I don't care, that Origins is not a cosplay con, but I'm a cosplayer, and I cosplayed almost every day of Origins just because I wanted to. And no one appreciated my cosplay more than the Pokemon section, because I did have my Pokemon trainer cosplay on one day, and they loved it. So
that's awesome. I mean, when the warning was like, look, you're going to be doing this for you. The communal aspect of like people appreciating your costume is not a thing that happens at that con. But you're absolutely right. Like Pokemon fans like Pokemon. It's just
I will say that the cosplay presence is getting bigger, though. I'll say that.
Because people like me who are like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway because it's for me. Like, I feel like putting on this costume.
My daughter completely made an Undertale cosplayer's day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in 2014, the Pokemon World Championships was one of the last ones that was open to the public because of that horrible event horrible attack that almost happened a couple years ago in Massachusetts, I want to say. But yeah, because but I was at the one in DC, and it was cool. All the promotional stuff was the DC Metro. I have a notebook with Pikachu and an American flag cape.
Nice.
But the card game was like twice the floor space of the video game. It's bigger. Like that is a larger part of the Pokemon fandom than the video games.
Yeah. I mean, if you play the video game, first of all, let's say you like both. You like the video game and the card game. In like your personal collection, your video game's going to take up less space, for one. And we're just talking about physically. And two, there's just more things to do in the card game, I think, than the video game. There's more the cards you can collect and like the decks you can put together and like the way you can battle people. There's just more to do and like honestly, there's more of a reason to build a community for the card game than the video game, because you can play Pokemon by yourself, the video game. You can't really do it with the card game.
That's certainly true.
I will say I have two big problems with any card game, Pokemon included, and they're related. One, it seems to be play to win or pay to win. If you got the money for the packs, if you got the money for the special cards, you're going to get these cards, and you're going to chump over these kids or these economically insufficient adults, and you're just going to just destroy them. And the second one, which is related to the first one, are the people that make net decks.
Oh yeah.
So they pay attention to the tournaments. They're all over the tournaments. As soon as one wins, they completely recreate that deck. They recreate that deck, and then they go to their local shop like they are king shit, and they win. It's not their deck. It's not their creation. It is just their money purely that bought these cards and made this deck, and they go in and wipe the floor with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was, so the video game competition hit the same point. 2014 was actually the year that had the big upset, because out of all like 900 Pokemon that there are now, there's only like 17 that are tournament viable. Because people have distilled the mathematical purity of Pokemon down to its platonic ideal. to the point where if you aren't playing with those a variation of those 17 Pokemon, you're just not going to win because people figured out what is best, period.
Right.
But this one guy came up with a Pachirisu that knew Follow Me and had like a citrus berry that could heal itself. And it upset the tournament meta so hard he won.
Good. I love hearing stories about that.
Yeah, people made comics about it.
Ooh.
Like, yeah, it was so big. It was such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this guy was just like, no, Pachirisu is my favorite Pokemon. I refuse to not have it in my team, and he won. He became the world champion in 2014.
Good.
And that makes it even better for me because it wasn't just like this dude figured out something that would upset the meta and came with that. He was like, this is the Pokemon I like. This is the Pokemon I want to use. And then
that is Pokemon.
Yes. He went up there. He had a little Pachirisu plush. He set it down next to him. He's like, I'm going to win with this little squirrel. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And everybody was cheering that guy on because you're absolutely right. That is Pokemon. Like, that is at the heart of it. Like, this is the thing that I love. I'm going to make the thing that I love viable, not, cave. But that was like one of the big reasons why that was one of the big upsets about Gen 8. So Sword and Shield, Game Freak was like, guys, there are 900. Are you joking? Like, we have to cut some or else the competitive is just going to stay stale. And the competitive is a big part of this game series. Like, we're not going to ignore it. PvP is huge. It is this game. This game is about PvP.
Right.
And so people are like, but I can't have my favorites. And they're like, I get that. But guys, are you fucking serious? We're giving you by the time the DLCs are done, you have nearly 600 out of the 900 available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the idea of them going to a completely different region and there being different Pokemon, and then there not being certain Pokemon. It makes sense geographically. It makes sense.
Yeah, well, with the 3DS games, they had to just be like, oh, you clearly imported these, and they don't even have Pokedex numbers. It's just there's we don't have an entry for these because we only have the regional Pokedex. Like Gen 7 actually got rid of the national Pokedex. The national Dex is now just the Pokemon Home cloud app on Switch. Like, if you want to track having them all, that your digital cloud encyclopedia is it. The actual Pokemon games only have regional Dexes again.
Yeah, it was a big upset. A lot of people who were talking about the new Pokemon games were really upset about the fact that they couldn't have them all.
But I if you ever get back into it, I'd like the Switch ones a lot. Because they started doing stuff like seasons, for this month it's all fairy types. All the competitions make your best fairy type teams and everybody fights fairy types, or it's only legendaries. Like, hey, you don't normally get to have legendaries in competitive, so the online ranked this month is legendaries only. Go nuts. Stuff like that. Or when they released the DLCs, they were like, you can only use Pokemon that are found in the DLC Pokedex. Build your best team. And I love that. It's kind of like a not Nuzlocke, but that sort of self-imposed challenge, but official.
Yeah.
And they're keeping it going.
All right, guys. Well, there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to. I mean, including the Pokewalker and its predecessor, like the Pikachu Tamagotchi.
Let's get on it.
But Baron, you want to go ahead and throw a bow on this thing?
Yeah, sure. Well, the Pokewalker is a.
I still have mine.
I'm literally searching for it on my desk right now. I got a Whooper in there that I've been raising for 10 years.
Oh, mine's got a Mew in it.
Oh, man.
Mine appropriately is a Snorlax.
And you don't go walking.
Yeah, he's sleeping somewhere right now. Probably forever.
The Pokewalker, by the way, is the world's most accurate pedometer still to this date.
I've heard that, actually.
It has been tested. That's just true.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm trying to condense all of this right now. It was a lot.
Just put it in a nut, Baron. Just
all right. I'm gonna throw a nut at it. Well, just like the franchise itself, this podcast has covered a lot of stuff that is all Pokemon. It's huge. There's definitely been a lot of revelations for me. And I'm actually looking forward to finding my copy of Pokemon Moon and striving past my goal of werewolf and get to Eldritch Horror. Maybe you should, get in the comments, let us know some of your accomplishments, let us know your favorite Pokemon, and find us on Discord and join up with Pokemon Anon with your craziest theories. Remember, facts will get you thrown out.
All right, Brian, if people like what you had to say, where can they find you on the internet?
Oh, you probably shouldn't, but I'm digital_lozenge on most platforms, both Twitter and Twitch. My Twitch channel is weird esoteric nonsense. I like to play video games not only of yesteryear, but also that had to have like some sort of weird technological hookup to work. So I've been playing a lot of PS1 games that you play with the PS1 mouse lately. I just finished Police Nauts, which does not use a controller. It's only the Sega Saturn mouse and the light gun, so I had to hook up a CRT for that. I'm currently playing through a fan retranslation of Final Fantasy VII, but on original hardware. And I will be getting back to the Nuzlocke run as soon as I'm done Final Fantasy VII.
And I'll most likely try to be a part of it again, like I was for the first part. And we host Ryan on our Casters Guild Twitch channel, so if you're there, you'll probably run into him anyway. So email us, castersguild@gmail.com, with any of your ideas or any questions. Find us on all the socials, and we will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Throw
Smell you later.
Joy Pokemon or not.